Picture this, your own nervous system, the exact, highly evolved mechanism designed entirely to keep you alive, suddenly turning against you. It's a silent, invisible trap. Welcome to this explainer, where today we're exploring a medical mystery that's literally hiding in plain sight, the fascinating and frankly kind of terrifying neuroscience behind social anxiety. And look, we're not talking about just being a little shy here. What we're looking at is a cinematic medical thriller, and it's playing out entirely inside the human body.
It really begs the question, why does the human brain manufacture its own torture? Think about that suffocating grip of walking into a crowded room. You know the feeling, right? The air gets thin, your vision narrows, because to your brain, you aren't just looking at a room full of your peers. You are prey, completely surrounded by predators. It's an absolutely brutal, exhausting illusion.
Okay, let's dive into part one, the invisible threat. So you walk into that crowded room and the physical sensations are immediate, and they are overwhelming. You get this sudden spike in temperature, blood rushing to your face. Within milliseconds, the amygdala, which is basically the brain's primitive alarm bell, detects a perceived social threat, and it completely hijacks your nervous system. Your logical, rational brain, it gets shoved straight into the backseat. Clinically speaking, we're talking about social anxiety disorder. What's happening is your brain is treating a normal, everyday conversation like a literal life-or-death encounter. That fear of being scrutinized or humiliated triggers this massive, completely involuntary cascade of stress hormones. So you aren't just nervous, your body is literally armoring up for physical combat.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that recent systematic reviews in physiology show that individuals dealing with social anxiety actually exhibit altered thermosensation and cutaneous vasodilation. Simply put, that translates to the sudden sweating, the intense heat, the severe blushing. It is a deeply physical trap. Your body's thermoregulatory system is firing off a massive false alarm, and usually it's right when you're just trying to do something simple, like order a coffee.
Which brings us to section 2, the armor that suffocates.
To survive this physiological onslaught, we build armor. In clinical psychology, these are called safety behaviors. They're these short-term actions we take to reduce anxiety. It's hiding in the bathroom or gripping a cold glass of water until your knuckles turn white, just to mask a hand tremor. They absolutely feel like lifelines in the moment. But in reality, they're secret mechanisms feeding the monster. And this brilliantly illustrates the dark paradox we're dealing with. You mentally rehearse every single sentence so you don't sound stupid, but that just makes your speech stiff and totally exhausting. You stare at your phone because it makes you feel safe, but it actually signals that you're completely unapproachable. The neurobiological catch is this. Your logical prefrontal cortex knows a party is safe, but your amygdala, it learns that the only reason you survived the night was because you stared at a glowing rectangle for 3 hours. Because you used that safety behavior, the brain logs a failure. It records the survival, sure, but it never actually records the safety of the situation itself. It never learns that the party was harmless to begin with. The loop is closed. The anxiety survives to strike again.
Let's move on to part 3, the chemical betrayal. So what if the cure is actually the disease? What happens when people use alcohol as armor against their own self-doubt? I mean, it's the ultimate liquid courage, right? It feels like the perfect instant cure for a racing heart. But the neuroscience reveals a pretty chilling reality underneath. Picture the timeline of a night out. It's 8 p.m. Alcohol floods the brain, boosting this calming neurotransmitter called GABA. Artificial relief kicks in. By 11 p.m., inhibitions drop. But the trap has already been set. Because at 2 a.m., the alcohol begins leaving your system. And by 3 a.m., the bottom completely falls out. GABA plummets, the brain panics, violently spiking your cortisol levels. And you wake up in the dark, your heart pounding, trapped in this state of severe rebound anxiety that we commonly call hangxiety.
But the true betrayal here comes down to a phenomenon called state-dependent learning. So the crucial point is, even if you were the absolute life of the party at 11 p.m., your brain filed that social success under things I can only do when intoxicated. When you're sober the very next day, you literally cannot access those memories or skills. Your sober brain still firmly believes you're socially inept, all because your confidence is locked behind a chemical wall. Which brings us to the aftermath. Section 4. The post-event autopsy, 95%. Let that sink in. That is the staggering percentage of people with social anxiety who engage in negative post-event processing, rumination.
You manage to survive the event, only to go home, stare at the ceiling in the dark, and relentlessly put yourself on trial. It's like a clinical crime scene, but your own mind has completely tampered with the evidence. In reality, maybe there was a totally normal 3-second pause in a conversation, but your distorted memory? It mutates that into a catastrophic, humiliating silence where everyone secretly judged you. The anxious mind aggressively filters out every single smile, it magnifies every perceived flaw, and it completely blocks the natural fading of negative emotions. You are literally rewriting your own memories in the dark. And this isn't just harmless overthinking. This constant mental replay actually fuels the anticipatory dread for the next event. It traps you in an endless, self-fulfilling loop. But there is a way out. Let's look at Section 5, Rewiring the Brain. See, we can actually break this loop. Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, or ACT, offers this incredible weapon called cognitive diffusion. And it's brilliant because it's entirely counterintuitive. You don't try to fight the terrifying thoughts, you don't argue with them. Instead, you just detach. You learn to look at your anxiety not as an absolute truth, but just as a passing event in your mind, just a string of harmless words floating by. So here is the illuminated path out of the trap. Step 1 is acceptance. You embrace the sweating and the racing heart without fighting back. Step 2, being present. You anchor yourself in the room to stop that mental autopsy before it starts. Step 3 is values. You define what actual human connection means to you, regardless of approval. And finally, Step 4, committed action. You drop the safety behaviors. You put the phone away. You step into the light, acting on your values, even while your amygdala is screaming at you to run away. The human brain is an incredibly powerful machine, totally capable of constructing these elaborate, invisible prisons. But neuroplasticity proves that the brain can be rewired. Every single time you face a crowded room without your armor, you are teaching your nervous system a brand new truth. So the ultimate question for us is this: will you let the anxiety keep rewriting your memories in the dark, or will you drop the safety behaviors, step straight into the discomfort, and take back the pen?